Now in its 10th year, this is GabNet. Talk like you've never heard it before.
Hey, hey everybody, live from Harlem in New York City. It's me, I'm Alex, and this is the Ramble. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going out to the other coast of the United States because we're in New York, and we're joining Larry Bubbles Brown.
Yes,
Hello, Larry.
Hello, Alex. I'm awaiting my pardon for anything I may have done.
Yeah, well, I mean, isn't it sad in this day and age that we have to pardon people retroactively,
Yeah.
that they're in fear that they're going to be, what's the word I'm looking for? I don't know what the word is I'm looking for. I'm out of it. Good morning. How are you?
Well, I think the first retroactive pardon may have been Nixon when Ford.
Ford did it, yeah. And Ford did it for the welfare of the country. He felt the country should not have to go through a criminal trial for a ex-president of the United States. It's better to just let it go and get on with things. And he was right, yeah. Yeah, I agreed with that. I thought that was a good idea. But a lot of people were incensed because, we hated Nixon. I mean, I can't remember how much we hated Nixon. In fact, I was on his enemies list.
Wow.
Yeah, not the first one, the second one. I didn't make the first cut. Yeah. It's out to California we go. Doo-dah, doo-dah. And talk to our old friend, Larry Bubbles Brown. Hello, Larry.
Hey, Alex. How's it going?
It's going okay. It's going all right.
Got your caffeine?
I got my caffeine. Marjorie made my caffeine for me.
You get it from coffee. I get it from Coke Zero.
You get it from Coke Zero? I've stopped Coke Zero. I haven't used it in a long time.
Pretty good.
No, it's really good, but I just stopped using it for some reason. It wasn't a health reason. I mean, nobody was complaining about how bad it was or anything like that, for you. But I just assumed that maybe there's some reason why I shouldn't use it. And they came out, I use like this sparkling ice, which is just basically a water with fruit.
I've had, those are good.
Yeah, they're good. And I get a couple of cases of it from Costco, and it's good,
Well, if you're like me, you'll go through those, and then one day you'll just say, I don't like them anymore.
Well, I've been using these for a couple of years now. I have not gotten tired of them. Although every now and then I'll buy another brand to mix in, I don't think I have a single can of Coke Zero anymore in the house.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, because I had a whole bunch of them and I never used them. And if you don't use them after about a year, they start collapsing and doing all kinds of weird things.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's me.
I'm trying to remember, what was the worst diet drink when they... Because I always had regular Coke, and I remember they had there was something before Diet Coke.
There certainly was, and it was the worst. It was called Tab.
Tab, that was it. Oh, my God, it tasted like just chemicals.
Yeah, it tasted just like chemicals, and it was... Bob Goldthwait used to be a Tab addict.
He slammed them on your show, yeah.
He used to slam them down. He was like using them like crazy. And one day he said, well, I'm going to stop Tab. And he stopped Tab, and he said he had these raging headaches. So he went back to it and then kind of slowly weaned himself off of it. But if you went cold turkey on Tab, you actually got headaches.
That's not a good sign.
No, that's not a good sign. I'm sorry, folks, but if you're still using Tab, they don't make Tab anymore. They make it, but it's kind of like an energy drink or something like that.
Tab.
Oh, it was terrible. Then Coke, Diet Coke came out, and it was so much better tasting. I mean, it tasted a lot like Coke. And then they came out with Coke Zero, and I swear to you, you can drink regular Coca-Cola and you can drink Coke Zero, and you can't tell the difference.
They're pretty close.
Pretty close. So why not do the diet version? You know, because it's not causing any deleterious effects. You know.
Am I wrong, or was Diet? I seem to remember Diet Coke was a sponsor of CBS had a special called Night of 100 Stars or something, and they all had Diet Coke.
Well, I don't.
That must have been the mid-'70s.
I don't remember that. But then again, I'm getting to the point where I don't remember much anymore. You know, if I ever write my biography, I'm going to call you up and have to find out what dates certain things happened on.
We can do that.
Well, you know, I mean, we had that show back in San Francisco, and I remember a lot of it, but I had like a couple of people over at Sirius XM, and I said, well, it's very good to have you here, you know. I've always wanted to talk with you. And they went, well, I was on your show in San Francisco. Louis Black said that to me. I said, gee, you're great, Louis. I love you. You're terrific. And he said, well, we've met before. And I said, where? He said, I did your program in San Francisco. But, and I didn't remember him, obviously. But he also had a different kind of act. He wasn't the yelling, screaming guy that he is now.
He was like an older Goldthwait.
He was an well, no, but he didn't do that screaming back then. So I didn't remember him particularly. He wasn't much to remember.
Well, he didn't become big until he started screaming.
Yeah. And that, you know, I've been told that by a lot of people. Maybe you can verify it for me as a comic. That a lot of people who scream in their act always become big headliners. And why? Because nobody wants to follow somebody who is screaming.
Yeah, it's true.
Does that make sense?
Well, Goldthwait, Kinnison.
Yeah. We can go on and on about Louis Black. What happens is you don't want to go on before or after somebody who'd been screaming in his act, do you?
No.
And why not? Because they've literally spoiled the room. And then you got to go on, and it's Bubs with his low-key comedy. And it's like, we just got a shot of, you know, Red Bull here, and now we're getting a shot of Diet Coke.
It totally changes the room.
Yeah, so the reason they become successful is because nobody wants to follow them, so they always wind up being the headliner. So that's, am I wrong in that assertion?
I think you're right,
So people brought that up to me. They say, I don't want to follow that. You also, what else don't you want to follow? Tell me a couple of things, but something you wouldn't follow.
You don't want to follow a guitar act.
Exactly. Anybody that plays an instrument in their act, you don't want to follow. Impossible, you know.
I remember as an open micer when you just dreaded having to go on after Dr. Gonzo or Billy J.
Right, exactly. How about trying to follow a prop act?
Or a prop act.
Yeah. Prop acts nobody wants to follow. In case people don't know what we're talking about with prop acts, these are guys like, who's a good example of a prop act?
Carrot Top.
Carrot Top. They come out with a whole bunch of things. It's like they load in a whole bunch of stuff, and they're using nothing but props in their comedy. And nobody wants to follow that. It's just too much, too rich. You know.
Some of the great prop acts were, I remember Bruce Baum.
Yes. He was a good prop act, though. He was a
good.
really good prop act, you know.
And a good guy.
Oh, great guy. Is he still alive?
Yeah.
Oh, what's he doing?
He's still doing comedy.
Really?
Yeah.
Boy, he was on TV a lot. He was doing very well. His career was kind of going good. But
he was big, I think, before I started. He was on Make Me Laugh a lot, and was pretty known from that.
Yeah, but the thing is that when you compare him to Carrot Top, he was a much better prop comic. Much better. But anyway, so nobody wanted to follow a prop comic. So prop comics always got the headlining status. Now there's Larry Bubbles Brown. Your act is, I would say, very low key.
Yes, and I don't think Seinfeld would not want to follow a prop act.
Oh, exactly. But I'm saying that you are very low key. And so consequently, if you go in and you've got a guy who screams and yells and you've got somebody else, you don't say, I want a headline. Right?
No.
And that's why you never became basically a headliner, is because you were always a good act to come on before the yelling and the screaming.
I was a perfect middle act.
You were the perfect middle act. Yeah. In case people, again, don't know what we're talking about, in a comedy club, you had an opening act, you had a middle act, and then you had a headliner.
It's a tired format that hasn't changed in 50 years.
I thought that sucked.
Yeah.
I thought that sucked. I went against that theory when I was doing my shows. I would put the second best act I had on first. I would stick the worst act I had, and I don't think I ever hired people that were bad comics, but I would take the least effective comic in the bunch. I used to run 5 people in a show. I put them in the middle. And then on either side of the middle, I would put the headliner, and I would put a strong, secondary act. Because you want the second best person in that group to open, because they set the tone for the show.
If the first act people see sucks, they think, "Wow, we made a mistake."
But that's the way it all happens in every comedy club in America.
It's terrible.
Yeah, the worst act that you got goes on first,
which is the hardest job, and it's also so you give the least experienced person that's his first job.
But if you put the second best person you have on, it really starts the show on a high note.
Yeah, well, you did it right, and I think that's how Boston used to run their shows, which was that's the way to do it.
Yeah, and I think we had very successful shows for that reason.
Yeah.
I didn't want anybody to feel that I put them in the middle because I thought they were terrible, but compared to all the other people there, they were the least accomplished. Okay.
I remember Steve Kravitz moaning to you at a show we did in Concord one night that he was, "Oh, you're putting me on first." And he thought it was an insult. And he goes, no, we're putting you on first because you're good.
Same thing with Warren Thomas came to me. Said, "Why are you putting me on first?" And I went, "Because you're the second best comic here." This was, I think, a thing we did down at the Circle Star Theater. And we had him, and we had Dana Carvey, and we had
Goldthwait.
Bob Goldthwait. It was called
Rubin.
Bobcat Goes Hollywood, Rubin, whatever. And he said to me, "Why are you putting me on first?" And I said, "Because you're the second best comic I've got here." I think probably I put where did I put Carvey on that show?
He headlined.
Carvey didn't headline. No.
Goldthwait did.
Goldthwait did, and Carvey, I think.
I bet you had an I wasn't there, but I think he closed out the first half, maybe.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
But people that were there told me that was the greatest comedy show they ever saw.
Really?
Yeah, it's got a legendary rating to it from people that went there.
Why do they say that?
It was the absolute peak of Goldthwait, and Carvey was just such a beast as a performer.
Well, Carvey was really he would come out on stage. People don't realize this because they remember him from Saturday Night Live. But back in those days, he would come on the stage, and he was a good-looking kid. He had all the things going for him that don't make for comedy.
He had long blonde. He should have been a rock star.
Right. He was a good-looking guy, and he came out on stage, and he used that as his main joke. Oh, they model mannequins, and
And he had impressions in the guitar.
Yeah, and impressions in the guitar, and he killed. He was a brutal stand-up.
Oh yeah. funny thing was when he was he grew up in that San Carlos near that theater, and he worked as a busboy for the theater, and he once actually took food over to Michael Jackson's room.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he's so glad you got out of there alive.
Wow. And Carvey was a great stand-up. I imagine he still is. You opened for him, right?
Yeah, he still kills harder than anyone I've ever seen.
Really?
Yeah.
Still got it. Because as comics get older, they start losing it. They start just doing the old material a lot. If he's still killing it, good for him.
He's still got the high energy, and he's got people love impressions.
They do. I've never been a big fan of impressions, But if you do an impression and there's some solid comedy behind the impression, I don't mind it. It's when you come out like Richard Little and you just do an impression, everybody applauds.
Yeah.
That I don't like. That's why I don't like Richard Little. But people like Carvey will do an impression, but there's some comedy, strong comedy going on in it, and that's I think important.
The kid, great impression, I thought, and he had funny material. Was David Fry, who did.
He was, he was. Some impressionists are the weirdest people in the world, and Fry was one of them.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because they have no personality of their own, and they live through their impressions. The difference between them and a Dana Carvey is Dana Carvey does impressions, but at the core, he's Dana Carvey.
Yeah.
And there is a Dana Carvey there. But Fry would get off stage, and he didn't know who he was. He had no personality, couldn't mingle with people, I hear. It was terrible. David Fry, again, for those people who are listening to us who are not our age and not old farts like Bubs and I, was an impressionist who became very popular for a while because he did who did Nixon?
Nixon was his big impression. Yeah.
Nixon was his big impression, yeah. And he made a whole career out of that as long as Nixon was in office, and when he wasn't in office anymore.
Yeah, I guess Watergate killed that career.
Yeah. There were a lot of people who did impressions. I had a friend who put out a record album that was nothing but impressions. And the album was the most successful comedy album of all time. What was it, Bubs?
The First Family?
Yep. Earl Dowd was my best friend.
Wow.
Yeah. And he at one point. And he was just, he put out this album called The First Family about the Kennedy family. That if I even play it today, it's funny.
Von Meter.
Yeah, but it was funny not because of the impressions, but the comedy was solid comedy. And it was just an incredibly successful album. And everybody tried to imitate it, but nobody succeeded. That thing sold, I don't know how many millions of copies, but
it won the Grammy.
Yeah.
When only one album got a Grammy.
Yep. What? I guess there are no more comedy albums coming out, are there?
Comics put out CDs, but they don't really.
But the thing is, they do a show on Netflix.
Yeah.
And that's the way they're getting out there now, as opposed to comedy albums. People like George Carlin used to do a comedy album, and a lot of people did comedy albums. David Fry, we were talking about, did comedy albums, but they're all kind of gone. I had a real collection of them.
Yeah, I had when I was a kid. I had a bunch: Jonathan Winters, Shelley Berman.
Yep.
Bob Newhart.
Oh, Bob Newhart made his career off a comedy album.
Yeah.
Button Down Mind of Bob Newhart. And for the people out there who are too young to get the button down reference, there was one time there were shirts that were button down collars. They had buttons on either side of the lapels. and that's what they came up with that. But that was the full name of the album. I remember it. I had it. I listened to it. I played it over and over again. I loved Bob Newhart. You know, these are guys. You know what happens? There are certain comedians that are really good comics. You know, and then one day they make a movie and they're a big success, and they never go back to comedy again. How about Steve Martin? He hasn't done stand-up in years, and yet he was perhaps one of the most successful stand-ups of all time.
I don't think anyone was. He was like a rock star that one year he became.
Yep. And I went to a concert he did out here in New York at the time. I think it was New York, in Long Island, and I went to see him. He filled a fucking stadium.
Yeah.
You know, now how do you do comedy to, say, 10,000 people? Well, you've had to do it for 10,000 people. I had you on the Frost Amphitheater shows, didn't we?
Yeah.
We had 9,000 there.
Was fun, but that's really, the comedy's not meant to be seen by a zillion people.
Well, but that's what happened to Steve Martin. And Steve Martin, at one point in his career, and he was just at the top. I mean, he could fill stadiums, literally. And he said, I found that after you created your second set, okay, your second hour of comedy, that was the time you quit, because really you have nothing more in you except to repeat what you were doing.
I think he's right, yeah.
So he got out of doing stand-up comedy and went into the movies and was very successful. You know.
Well, that's why you see so many comics. They try to do a new hour every year, and I think they turned out to be pretty mediocre for most of them.
Oh, each one gets weaker and weaker and weaker. Yeah. Because
the first hour is always the best.
Well, I always said why is the first hour always the best? I had a major theory, and I think I'm right.
Well, I think you only have so much material in you.
Well, the way I put it was, how many years did it take you to put together that hour?
Yeah, a long time.
Yeah, before you were a success. Now all of a sudden you're a success, and they want another hour out of you. How much time do you have to get that together?
Less than a year.
Yeah, so you can hone the first one for years and years. I mean, I'm sure right now you're the best you've ever been because you have taken material and used it, and you've eliminated other material, and now you've got it down to an act works every time you get on stage, right?
Pretty much.
Now, if I asked you to come up with another hour, could you do it?
I don't think I could.
Yeah, see? And that's the point. That's why comics are only good for their first hour. And even in the second hour, if they're good, it gets weaker.
Absolutely.
You know. But you had all your life to get that first act together, so. And that's why you should go see Bubbles Brown. He's using the same material he's been using for years.
For 90 years.
What's the oldest joke in your act that you still use?
I think probably someone stole my identity. Now his life sucks.
Yeah, right. You still use that to this
still
day.
Do it, yeah. It still works, which amazes me. But.
Well, it should work. It is maybe, I quote it on my show a lot, you know.
So I'm assuming a lot of people haven't seen it, maybe. I don't know.
No, I think that it's, Slayton used to say to me, gee, I got no new material, and I got to go out there to this. People have seen me before. I said, don't worry. When they bring friends with them, they want to say, they want to hear, when they go to a concert, they really don't want to hear what the artist just put out on an album.
No.
They want to hear the hits.
The hits.
Okay? Right? And so what they do with a comic, they want the hits.
When I first saw Bobby Slayton, I took friends back to see him over and over again. You got to see this guy, and I loved seeing it again.
The one thing Bobby Slayton did that was brilliant for me is I would go to see his act somewhere, and I would only go about once a year because I never wanted to see any comic more than once a year, mainly because I said by that time enough change was there. So I would go to see Bobby Slayton. He would open up every time with something. And I said, wow, that's brand new. And he would kill with it. And he'd do another thing. And then eventually, as the act went on, I kept hearing all the old material.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he knew how to throw the audience off in the opening to make them think they're getting a whole new show.
Yeah.
I saw Leno do 2 hours at the Frost Amphitheater.
Wow. That's amazing.
And what he did, he structured his act interestingly. His first 15 minutes was all political, local, topical humor. Okay? So that was the top of his act. And that was always new because it was based on the news. And then the next hour and 45 minutes was the same material he'd done millions of times before.
Right.
But I sat there with Feldman watching him work, and Feldman went, "This is genius. This is amazing. I mean, this guy is doing the first 15 minutes of his act brand new, and then nothing but the old material." He says, "Brilliant the way he structured his act."
He was. He's a great comic.
It was a great stand-up, but eventually he ran out of his first 2 hours, I guess, but he went up there for 2 hours. And I went, how do you do that? How do you keep people laughing for 2 hours? He was brilliant. He was brilliant in that way. Everybody wanted to watch Leno just to see how he worked. Anyway, we've run out of time again. Geez, time flies when we're having fun.
Well, that actually was fun, yes.
Yes. And there was something we wanted to get back to this time that we had talked about last time, and I can't remember now. So, I can't remember anything anymore. I'm an old man. Leave me alone.
It'll come to our senile minds sometime.
Yeah. Well, it gets rougher and rougher. It really does. However, we all have this problem. You say, I'm going to go to the kitchen to go get this or that, and then when you get to the kitchen, you can't remember what you went there for. We all do that at any age. Bubbles, thank you. I appreciate it. We'll do it again next week.
Yeah. Oh, happy 2025.
Oh, you too. Bye.
Now in its 10th year, this is GabNet. Talk like you've never heard it before.
Well, thank you very much, Larry. By the way, if a lot of you thought you were hearing double, here's what happens. I screw up occasionally, and I screwed up this time, big time. I ran last week's interview with Bubs at the beginning. And I suddenly realized it, so I changed to the other one that I did, and that one was being played. And so you might have heard double. You say, hey, that thing just started, didn't it? Now it's starting again? Yeah, that's only because Pops can't do things right anymore. So let's leave it at that. Let me see here. Let's start admitting people here. Here we go. We got Kevin, and we got Charlie Wallace, and we've got Josh Wheeler. Hello, Josh.
Hello.
And we've got Mark Thorner. There he is, ladies and gentlemen, Mark Thorner. And let me just get Alan in here because Alan's trying to join us as well. Hello, Mark. How have you been?
I've been good, Alex. Good to hear you. Good to see you. Good to see everyone around.
Yeah. So how's everything down in Florida?
The same.
Do you like it down there? I never have really asked you that, have I?
Yeah, more or less.
Yeah.
I found what to like down here, and it is what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, what would recommend it? Okay.
Um,
But wait a minute, I got to put people on here. I didn't.
Yeah.
I gotta put the. There we go. There you all go. Yeah. What is to recommend it? Let's not talk about the negatives.
Well, the Everglades, Big Cypress,
Mm-hmm.
the beaches, the weather,
Yeah. Yeah.
and that's about it.
That's about it. Okay. All right. By the way, here comes Ray. If he's entering the, and let me just put myself on here a second because I'm not trusting this right now.
Sorry.
Oh, there it is. Oh, there's Ray. Okay.
Yeah, you're not on, Alex. It's only you showing on YouTube.
No,
Yeah.
not now.
Oh, a minute ago. Okay.
I just realized I screwed up again. I screw up all the time
okay.
now. Yeah.
Right.
I have too many things to watch out for now, you know. So anyway, how are you all, the rest of you? Josh, been quite a week, huh, Josh?
Yeah, there's been a lot going on this week.
Yep. Today, just alone, there was so much going on that I went, oh God, will it never end? You know, can we ever stop? Can Trump not be the subject of discussion every single day of every single minute? I mean, thank God planes crash into each other. Otherwise, we'd be talking about Trump all the time. And Trump didn't like that. He had to insert himself into that story by making a stupid remark yesterday that, DEI caused it. No, it turns out it was really a helicopter that was flying too high. They're supposed to go about 200 feet up, I believe, and in this case they went 400, and that's where flights coming in go, okay? So that's what happened. It wasn't DEI, okay? So since that didn't land very well yesterday, today they had to go a step further, and it's the Defense Department, I think, that has said that they're not going to be celebrating Martin Luther King's birthday or Gay Pride Month or Black History Month. They're not going to do any of those things. Okay?
No Juneteenth.
Huh?
No Juneteenth.
No Juneteenth, you know. They're not going to give people off for Juneteenth. And Martin Luther King's birthday, you know.
Wow. That's incredible.
Isn't that incredible?
Slowly inserting himself along with his people, and 8 months later, we're all going to look and go, Sieg Heil.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what's happening. What happened later on today was, now where was it? I forgot now what I was going to say. Something else happened today.
Second plane crash today.
Yeah, it was another plane crash.
Philadelphia.
Really?
Well, there was Kash Patel and Tulsi Gabbard and
Yeah, well, we went through those the other day. Okay.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Yeah, the plane crashed in Philadelphia today.
Really? Oh, okay.
a Learjet.
Air ambulance.
Damn
from
that
Mexico.
DEI, huh?
Yeah.
Happened again.
Yeah.
Well, doesn't matter that we don't have enough air traffic controllers.
Oh, I know what the other thing was. They're letting people go at the FBI who had anything to do with getting prosecutions against the January 6th people. Right.
Not just the prosecutors,
even-
but the FBI
even-
as well?
Well, the
Yeah.
FBI.
Don't
Yeah.
even
Oh
don't
my.
even have a director in there yet, and he's already using it as political.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Bullshit.
Now, my question is, isn't there something they can do about this? I mean, like file a grievance?
Well, that's what they said today is okay. Yeah, like California, I'm sure there's probably some law in there says you got to have 30 days off, 30-day notice and all that other shit. California has all kinds of laws like that.
Well, I think
You can't
that
just fire without cause.
yeah, but if
But
you've
he
been
says basically he's saying, okay, take me to court.
Yeah, that's what he's doing.
That's it.
okay, so they'll take him to court and they'll win. And
If they got the money to do it.
either they'll well, you don't think they're going to be able to find good lawyers who are willing to handle this case? You know?
Still got to pay him.
Huh? No,
gotta
not
pay 'em.
necessarily. You're going to have a lot of them doing it pro bono because they just hate what Trump is doing. I mean, the ACLU alone probably would handle this case. So
It's just it's exactly what he said he was going to do. He's going to get all his people in there, and everybody will be sucking his balls, and everybody will do whatever he wants and run this fucking country just the
but
way he
how
wants.
can you fire somebody in the service of in civil service who is doing their job?
Some of them are paper pushers, and they're getting pushed out.
Yeah.
If you wrote a piece of paper that had something to do with J6, you're out.
Yep. So
I'm glad I'm not employed anymore.
well, you wouldn't be if you were, you know. It's just it's pathetic, is what it is, you know. And
Fascism in progress.
oh, and then
two more JC 6 people get in trouble with the law again this week. I mean today.
What was this?
I think 2 more of the people that got pardoned for the January 6th crimes got in trouble with the police again today. They're doing more crimes.
Oh, okay, good. You know,
Once
I
a
hope.
criminal, always a criminal.
Hmm?
Once a criminal, always a criminal.
Well, you know, I mean, you know, I'm not going to say that some of the people that got caught up and ensnared in this whole January 6th thing were as guilty as others. Okay?
That's true.
You know, somebody else may have broken the window and they simply went through it, you know, being welled up in the moment. But there were some
that's
people that
good.
were just bad dudes all the
Breaking the
way
window is
around.
minor vandalism.
Federal
Going
offense.
Through it.
Yeah,
is
it's
the
a
big
federal
I believe
offense.
it's federal.
Yeah.
Okay, well, lock them up.
Lock them up.
Lock them up.
Yeah, well, you know, I don't understand it. I mean, I understand it. We got an asshole for a president, you know.
It's beyond that.
I'm wondering how fast it's going to be before the American public says, this isn't any good. You know, this is terrible. I mean, do you
There's
really
still people in the American public that think it's good.
really? It's being sold to them, I guess.
I'm sure Mark sees a lot of that down there.
Oh boy, do I.
Really?
Yes.
Have you talked to any people in the last couple of days who agree with what's going on?
Yep.
Really? And you keep your mouth shut, right? You just don't want to get into it.
I just want to live my life peacefully.
Yep.
Yeah.
You know, I'm done with arguing against stupid at this point in my life. You know,
Ride it out.
Yeah.
Hope we survive.
yeah, exactly. That's exactly. And I look at it this way, guys. We lived through the last time, and that was even more crazy. And I'm thinking, I'm not going to put anything out there that says it could get worse, because we know what happens when people put that out there into the wild.
Well,
It
I
gets-
don't think this is I think the other last time wasn't as bad as this time.
Right.
yeah,
Well, he's
because
got
he-
4
he-
years
he-
experience
he-
and 4 years to prepare.
And he has a hubris
It's
going.
almost worse that he had that gap of 4
He
years.
has
He
a-
should have just elected him and got him the fuck out.
He has a hubris and an arrogance now that he didn't have before. He was kind of unsure of himself. This time, he's just going, hey, I'm right. You know, you're wrong. How do you know it was DEI? Because I'm really smart.
Common sense.
Common sense, that was it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where the fuck did he find that?
Yeah, I'm a person who uses his common sense. Oh, really? Oh, you really?
Yeah.
You know, am I laughing hard or what? What do you think, Josh? Do you think these people being forced out at the FBI is going to hold?
That's a tough one to say. I don't know. I mean, it'll probably, yes. I think so.
You think it'll hold?
Yeah. I think at most, if they're lucky and they go through some court battles, they might get a bit of a settlement for some money, but they won't get their job back.
Maybe not until the next Democrat's in office.
I mean, that's possible if, that's something they wanted to wait for and
Yeah, it's 4 years.
all that. But I don't see a court saying that the president doesn't have the power to fire people that work in the executive branch. I mean, it may have some.
But that's not the executive branch, the Justice Department. The Justice Department isn't the executive branch.
Yeah, it's part of the executive branch.
Is it part of the executive branch?
Yeah, all the federal agencies are part of the executive branch. The Justice Department is run by the Attorney General of the United States,
but
who is a cabinet appointee of the president.
Don't these all come under civil service?
Well, the lower tiers under your cabinet level secretaries and your political appointees that are not Senate confirmable do, but I just don't. I think a lot of people are just going to look the other way.
Really?
I agree
Remember when Bill Barr? Remember when Trump was threatening to fire Bill Barr and all because he wasn't saying what he wanted?
Yeah.
Because Bill Barr worked for Trump, essentially. And he was the Attorney General.
Yeah. You know, the political appointees are clearly, they're fireable, really at any time. I mean, the president can fire a cabinet official, just because he woke up in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom and decided to do it. He doesn't have to give any reason whatsoever. I mean,
here we're talking with people though that worked for the FBI. Okay, they were civil servants who maybe have been in that job for the last 20 years. You know, and they haven't done anything wrong. They've simply done their duty in trying to do what they did. And that's what they're now being persecuted for.
Yeah, I mean, they do have, their some protections under federal law that I really would feel pretty strongly that he violated. But I don't think anyone's going to do anything about it because the people that are set up to do things about it are abdicating those responsibilities and have been for quite some time in large part, and it's very exaggerated right now with the current setup. None of those people are going to want to do it. I mean, those protections are there, for example, so that the president of the United States cannot call up a desk clerk at the IRS who does audits and say, audit Alex Bennett. And the desk clerk says, I don't have any reason to audit Alex Bennett. And the president says, if you don't audit Alex Bennett, you're fired. That's why those protections are there, see? And another thing that has been allowed to be perverted is the president says, audit Alex Bennett, desk clerk. I can't do that. I have no legal basis to do it. If I do it, it'll be illegal. It's okay. I'll pardon you. Audit Alex Bennett. I mean, they're the abdication of the power of Congress and the reliance of Congress and the people in large part on the courts has created this problem in the presidency. I mean, Arthur Schlesinger warned about it in the Kennedy administration and wrote his book called The Imperial Presidency, and it's arrived in full force. It's been arriving for a long time, but it's in full force now, I mean, it's there, and no one is doing anything about it.
Yeah.
Carter was in Carroll.
Charlie,
was Imperial.
Yeah, Charlie, you had something you wanted to say?
No.
Oh, I thought you started to talk, and then okay. Yes, Bree.
There's a term, and I wish I could remember it. It was like dutiful acquiescence. Or it's something like that. It's a new term that's being used, and it basically says we are accepting the president's word over the Constitution. They've now legalized it. It's a term, and if it comes to me, I'll remember it. It's being used in documents now whenever Trump's decree goes against any law or constitution. It's dutiful acquiescence. There's something. I'll find it. It's a legal term, and it's being used. So you're seeing again the flaws in the system. He's exposing all of them. And we ran for many years on sort of a civil ethic reality. That's now gone. He's initiated that.
Yeah. You know about this?
He's the master of delays, too. So if anybody sues him, he'll delay it for 4 years.
Right.
Yeah. Well, I feel sorry for all those people in the FBI who for the last 4 years have felt they were only doing their duty to their country and to their oath of office, basically. You know,
Right. I mean, I'm sure there were a handful of agents who just came into work and, were told their next assignment was to, work on some of these investigations. It wasn't something they sought out. So, you know, yeah, I mean, it's wrong and it's unfortunate. I mean, actually, it's way worse than that, but I'm just saying the current setup of our Congress, I mean, the legislative branch it is so weak right now that it's incredible. And the judicial branch has become more powerful than the legislative branch through abdication. And it's unfortunate there because it's not meant to be. And those people the people are just, I mean, they're just letting it happen. I mean, what I don't understand, and look, this is the way to talk about this current administration, is these kinds of conversations. We do not have to have a conversation about that person and their name all night long. It is better to have it in these sort of abstract ways so that people can understand what's going on in their government without talking about that person nonstop. So, but the point is that, I mean, you have you have an order that says, I don't agree that the 14th Amendment says this. I think it's been perverted. I write an executive order, and it's now going to say this, blah, 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 and it's done. I mean, I don't understand what party, or where Republicans think that a president of the United States has the power to modify an amendment to the Constitution via executive order. I mean, again, as I said last week, I mean, and how could a court let this happen? I mean, if this happens, then the next time a Democrat is elected, as I said, then I'm sorry, the Second Amendment has been perverted, and anyone in this country that wants to own a gun better get themselves in a state-sponsored militia, or you can't have one anymore. I mean, it just opens the door for endless possibilities of things like that happen. I mean, presidents can't do that. I mean, for goodness sakes, it wasn't that long ago, I don't know, 25 years ago, let's say during the Clinton administration, that our Congress had this nonstop debate about the line item veto, for fuck's sake, where people cried and moaned that the president of the United States should never have the power to have a line item veto, where Congress could pass a law or a budget and then the president could go through it line by line and veto only these particular lines or programs of the bill and not the whole thing, because my goodness, that's against the Constitution, because the legislative branch has the power of the purse, and when they pass an appropriations bill, the president either signs it or he vetoes it. He can't have a line item veto. I mean, so we've gone from that argument to all of a sudden you can modify a constitutional amendment via an executive order. I don't understand.
well, here's something that bothers me, and that is the acquiescing of these various organizations to Trump without a fight. For instance, Meta. They were sued for $25 million by Donald Trump. They settled for $25 million. They just settled. They laid down and died and didn't defend themselves and didn't say, okay, take us to court. Let's do more of this, No.
Every legal expert said that that Trump would not win that lawsuit.
Okay, here's one that's, if you say they're not trying to intimidate the press, try this one on for size. Continuing the Trump administration's attacks on press independence, the Federal Communications has asked CBS News to hand over the full, unedited transcript and camera feeds of an October 7th interview with former Vice President Kamala Harris on 60 Minutes. Now, is CBS going to turn around and lie down and hand them over?
They probably will, yes.
If I ran CBS, I wouldn't do it. I'd refuse to do it. And if they want to sue me and they want to take me to court, fine. Because in the end, I think that a news operation has a right to keep to themselves materials that were never used on the air.
Sure.
Okay?
I agree. But a lot of times what happens is you'll have a CEO that might say something like that, and they go in, and then the board insists, and then they give in.
Yeah, but I mean, just to roll over on this guy and allow him to do this and allow the FCC to do it, is wrong. Right. You stand up for what you believe. Yes.
So you would refuse a sitting president or an administration this. So the way Trump's going right now, ABC will no longer be on the air. The FCC has jerked their licenses. What Trump will do.
What do you mean? They haven't jerked ABC's licenses.
No, just given your scenario where they asked for this interview and you said you wouldn't.
If you jerk those licenses, you better have a damn good reason, because if they turn around and sue you and win, which they would, okay,
of course they would.
Then the government is going to owe ABC a shitload of money.
Trump doesn't care.
I mean,
that's his money.
He's going to tell the FCC or whoever regulates them to jerk their license. They won't give this, jerk their license. Who cares?
Jerk what license?
ABC's license to broadcast.
Wait a minute. Hold on a second.
Yeah.
ABC isn't regulated by the FCC.
Oh, who are they regulated by? I don't know.
Nobody.
Oh.
Maybe something, one of the other areas of the business.
Okay.
The Trade Commission and so on, but the TV networks do not come under the FCC purview. However, they can go after their broadcast licenses of the individually owned and operated broadcast stations.
That's why I don't see at this point why you would just deny it. Give it to them. Who cares?
What do you mean? What do you mean? Give it to them? If you give it to them, you're giving up a right you have, and that is, this is material that was never broadcast, never made public, and now they want it. They can't have it.
I agree with you, Alex. I'm just
screw you. Commission, come after me, sue me. We'll go to court on this deal, and we'll be in court for years on this whole deal. Okay?
Yeah.
It's also disgusting because it's a way to destroy a political opponent.
I mean,
again, Kamala Harris.
I knew a guy who was the manager of the stations that Howard Stern was on. And the FCC wanted to fine Stern something like $250,000 for some kind of terrible thing that had gone on. This guy, who was the general manager of the station and the head of Infinity Broadcasting, I'm trying to remember his name right now. I keep forgetting it. Jesus, my mind. Well, anyway, I like the guy. He stood up for Howard Stern, said, I'm not turning over $250,000. We got to go to court on this deal.
Mel Carmison, I think.
Mel Carmison. Yeah. He stood up to him, and he was just a small radio outfit, okay? But he stood up to them. You can stand up to the FCC. There are things available to you to do that, okay? He did it, but CBS, the big, mighty CBS, is too chicken to do anything about it? If they give in on this, I'm gonna, well, look at what happened with Meta. I mean, come on, $25 million for what? It's going to his. By the way, 21 million of it is going to his library.
All 3 books? Wow, that's
expensive. Yeah, I didn't know Where's Waldo cost that much.
Right. Right.
Yeah. Remember the lawsuit where over the voting machines and Fox News and how they settled that for $750
Well, they were dead wrong.
What happened to the other company that was also
they're still in court. They're still in court suing Fox. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And it's for a lot more, I think.
Yeah. I think it's for $2 billion, isn't it?
Something like that. It's a lot of money. But I mean, yes, yes.
I found the term that was used by a writer. It's called anticipatory obedience. That's what we're seeing from the business community, all communities, media. It's unlike anything he's ever seen in his life. Is that people, you don't need jackboot thugs knocking on people's doors. If the people inside those places are doing what you want them to do, just because they're scared, they don't want any trouble. So they're getting in line with what we've seen with the tech growers and the others. It's anticipatory obedience.
Well, who knows? Knows
or
what's
or
going.
other laid terms, pussing out.
Who knows?
Yeah.
Who knows what's going to happen with the CBS deal? Since CBS, the entire company has been sold, and yes, Ray.
No, I was just wondering who it was that said that.
Who said what? Oh,
What Bree just quoted.
Who?
Because I was just watching a video of Carl Sagan in the early 1980s. He said the same exact thing.
What?
I just watched it earlier today.
What did he say, though? What did he say?
That basically, our society is getting run more and more by science and computers and stuff, and people are so ignorant that they're going to be susceptible to somebody like Trump coming in and taking over because they're just the ignorance is so profound. That this is going to be a huge issue in the future. He was right.
Yeah.
And I found the people who watch TikTok, and like Nicholas Carr just wrote about this, I think, in the Atlantic. He said it's making us dumb, and he says it's rewired our brains. Ferry Turkle has written about being alone together. There's others have written how social media creating a lack of empathy among us. And it's all coming at the same time, as Trump is president. And he's breaking down sort of anything we thought that was our system. And we're realizing, I mean, look, a lot of things rely on us agreeing that it is so. If I give you $1, Alex, and you give me a pack of gum, we agree that that dollar has value, right? But it does. The pack of gum is more valuable than a piece of paper, but we agree that paper has value. I mean, and I don't mean to get into the currency, but this is the whole system. If we don't agree on it, and if the things we thought were there, that Trump says are not really there, it creates a really, I mean.
But you see, what we're seeing happening here is a complete violation of just the human rights of American people that we get as a result of the Constitution. I mean, how is it constitutional to go after the press and tell them you want documents that were never broadcast? How do you do that? And if you fight it, you'll probably win, because constitutionally, it can't stand. Yeah, Am I right, Josh?
Ray, I found it, Ray. The guy's name is Timothy Snyder. The book is called On Tyranny, 20 Lessons from the 20th Century.
Okay. All right. Josh, what do you think? I mean, how does this stand with the Constitution?
Well, I mean, it's not, it's what they're asking for is wrong. I mean, I probably counted half a dozen unconstitutional acts just this week. I mean, I'm not being off color or joking there. I mean, they've probably done, this administration has probably committed half a dozen unconstitutional acts this week alone. And, if no one does anything about it, it's going to be trouble. I mean, we'll see what develops in court. I mean, what we have to ultimately hope is that we can get one or two, sensible people on the high court, like Amy Coney Barrett and Justice Roberts, to not give in to fear or worry and stop these things. And even though it may take a year for it all to happen, to stop them, and then this stuff can be put to bed, once and for all, but I mean, but we have to wait and hope on that. And I don't really like that, particular philosophy or taking that chance. I mean, the people are the ones that need to do something. I mean, the hope that we need to have is that the press would begin to cover this administration differently and stop playing over and over and over again the stupid things that get said and done, because those things are said and done knowing that that is what will happen, so that you and I and others will not care so much about these things that are being done that are not right. I mean, the press needs to stop doing that, right? When things are said that are stupid like that, and they need to stop having a panel come on and talk about how stupid it is and all that. I mean, they need to press on the effect to people of these policies and these actions and things like that, such as, I'm glad that, you're firing so and so or whatever. Do you think this action will cause gas to be cheaper next week, sir? And they need to just keep asking those questions over and over and over.
Yeah, but who's going to answer them? I mean, everybody's gotten so cowardly.
They're not. That's my point.
Really become a country full of cowards where this is concerned. Yes, Ray.
The only place you could find that kind of thing is on YouTube with these independent news. Some of these independent news, they do that all the time. But if you watch any of the network news or cable news, they never do.
Those are the same people that are the reason why Trump is now president of the United States, too.
Right? Yeah, on the right.
Yeah,
the ones on the right. Yeah,
but I mean,
I was talking about the ones on the left who do that all the time.
By the way, I will stand up for their right to say anything they want to. They can be wrong, and they can be vicious, but I will stand up for their right to say it, because I want the right of CBS to put on an interview on 60 Minutes and not be held to account for it, especially because, if you remember, Donald Trump was offered the same ability to go on 60 Minutes, actually on that same episode, and do an interview, and he turned it down. So screw you, Donald. They did everything they could to make sure your side of the story was being told.
Yeah. I mean, people don't, care as much about that. So that's what I'm saying. The media has to adjust their focus. And honestly, so do Democrats. Democrats need to approach it differently. Instead of this stuff over the 14th Amendment, instead of, and again, you have to understand what I'm saying here. I'm operating it from the way it needs to be done politically, not necessarily how I personally feel all the time. But instead of talking about the 14th Amendment, it's just, you can't do this. It's just so racist and racism and blah, blah, blah. Listen, there are a lot of people, the people overall are unhappy with these immigration things. Stop whining about it being racist and instead just turn around and say, you know what? This is particularly dangerous because I'm telling you, future presidents can come for other rights that might be important to you, okay? Yeah. You let a president modify a constitutional amendment by executive order. The Second Amendment is next, okay? Maybe the Fifth Amendment is next. Yeah. Maybe we get a real tough on crime president up in here that says, these searches and seizures that we're all the time throwing evidence out on criminals and all this, or, your right to a lawyer, and I don't really like that. I'm going to sign an executive order. They need to understand the consequences of actions and the real effect it would have on their life. But instead, you'll just get Democrats whining about how it's just racist and all that. And then I'm telling you, people are, they just make it easy for the Republicans to paint them as, do you know Mexican lovers.
Do you know of any president in recent time who has used as many executive orders to get what he wants?
No, I mean, this is a new thing that's developed here in the last couple administrations, and now it's going to get blown out of proportion. I mean, prior to that, when presidents tried to do these things, Republicans again would say they were operating outside the Constitution. They were trying to be a dictator. That's what Democrats need to do. Stop talking about it in ways that are just going to make people who really think that there's a problem out there, okay? People think there's an immigration problem. People think there's a problem with Latin Americans overrunning in our country. So he's trying to do something about it. And when they talk about it in the way that they're talking about it, people are just going to see them as weak. They have to talk about it differently. And then they also have to have a way to fix the problem. I mean, I think what we should have learned by now is that if Democrats wanted to be in power today, whether we wanted to swallow these pills or not, what they should have done, okay, was in the last administration, they should have been incredibly tough on immigration. They should have, pardoned President Trump in the first couple weeks of the Biden administration, right? There's 2 or 3 things that they could have done to defeat and deflate all these arguments that they've made over the last couple of years. But, the Democrats weren't going to.
Yeah, but let me
ask you. Let
me ask you this: if Biden had, let's say, given Trump immunity, okay, given him dispensation, okay, whatever, do you think the Democrats would have been happy with that?
They probably wouldn't have been.
Yeah.
No.
And it would have been a good idea.
So now, are they happy now? I mean,
if they had done that, they would have taken the wind out of Trump's sails.
Right.
You're right.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right.
Yeah, he wouldn't have
all
had
this weaponization of government and all. I mean, Biden should have just went on television and said, "No, there's no weaponization of government. There isn't going to be. I'm putting a stop to all of it right now."
Any of this you agree or disagree with, Mark?
Well, thank you, Josh, because the Constitution is pretty much set. And it once again, it's like, who's going to step up and go, no, you can't do this. Right now, and I'm wondering, personally, I would like to see a cheeseburger take him out, but.
Yeah. Well, all I think of is that when they wrote the Constitution, I think the very thing they wrote the Constitution to prevent from happening is what's going on right now. They wanted to prevent an imperial presidency.
Right.
In spite of the fact that they wanted George Washington to be king, but that's
what they wanted was a strong and active national government. But that doesn't mean president. That meant national government, 3 branches working together as a whole, not 2 of the branches saying, fuck it. I mean, that's not what they had in mind. I mean, did they need what they called an energetic executive? Sure. But they didn't mean at the expense of the other 2 branches. And that's what we have now. We have the other 2 branches, specifically the legislative branch. They know better. They know they are giving, I mean, some of these things with the funding and all that, I mean, they've appropriated that money. I mean, it's done. That's their job. They give that power up. That's the way Democrats need to be selling it. They give that power up. How are we going to get it back? From here on out, you, the people, can vote us in, and we can appropriate things to do what you need. And a president can just be like, you know what? I don't really think we need to build that bridge in that city over there. I'm going to sign an executive order that says the transportation department shouldn't disperse that money.
Oh, by the way, let me mention that CBS, Donald Trump is suing CBS for $10 billion, accusing the network of partisan and unlawful acts of election and voter interference. Now, what they're referring to is the 60 Minutes interview. He's never going to get $10 billion. He's never going to win that suit. But
he became president.
But let's see if CBS rolls over and decides to give him $25 million. Yes, probably Mark.
Mike Wallace, Don Hewitt, and Paley are probably spinning in their graves right now.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the fact that he will sue you for $10 billion, he sues people all the time for ridiculous amounts. But he didn't lose anything by it. He can't prove damages.
Right.
You know, he won the election. So how was he hurt by it? Now, maybe if he lost the election, then he could file the $10 billion suit, you know. But, I mean, and all they're putting up there as being their problem is the fact that they want CBS to lose its broadcast license. Well, CBS doesn't have a broadcast license. They don't go in there every 3 years and reapply for a broadcast license. Their stations have broadcast licenses. And in the case of CBS and ABC, they'd be just as happy to lose those local stations, to be honest with you, because they don't make them money anymore. Yes.
They could be following a playbook from the Philippines. I don't know the exact details, but the government shut down a major network there. And I forget the details, but the government was successful.
Okay, but that's the Philippines. That's not the United States.
Well, they're taking the playbook. A lot of the things you see around the world are happening in our banana republic in the U.S. right now. Do you disagree with that?
Well, I don't know. Your audio's kind of garbled. It always is. Anytime you're in that restaurant, it's garbled. I don't know why. Probably the Malaysian government censoring you. Yes, Ray.
Yeah, I saw Amy Klobuchar interviewed by an independent journalist today on YouTube, and she was assuring this interviewer that Congress is preparing to assault all of Trump's shenanigans over the last week. I mean, in a way that Josh was describing. I mean, we'll see if that actually happens. But
you know,
as the speaker said yesterday, that they're going to do nothing but fight.
But
that's basically what she was saying.
As long as these people keep caving into him, he's going to be emboldened by that, and he shouldn't be allowed to win any of these things without a fight. Right. You know?
Well, but what they have to understand, and the Democratic National Committee is electing a new leader in a week or two, and I watched on C-SPAN the little get-together that they had for the 7 or 8 that are vying for it. There's only really about 1 or 2 of them that are legitimate. The other ones are crackheads that shouldn't be allowed anywhere near the building, let alone to run the place. So we'll see what they come up with. But again, what they have to do is they have to get the people, okay? The people are the ones that have to apply the pressure. It can't be the Democrats. They have to start doing things slowly that make people be like, they took down the portrait of General Milley at the Pentagon. I mean, did that make my gas cheaper?
Right. Well, so
that's
far,
what they have to get people to start thinking. I mean, and it's not, they can't do it in a week.
Well,
okay.
In his first week, he was going to bring down the price of groceries.
Right, but instead of bringing them down, they brought down the portraits of Mark Esper and Mark Milley at the Pentagon.
Yeah, right.
That's what Democrats should be saying.
And he was going to end the war.
I'm on Meet the Press this weekend. I'm a senator from Virginia, and I'm here to tell you that Donald Trump told you he was going to bring down the prices of your groceries and your gas, and in the first week of administration, instead of bringing down the price of your groceries and your gas, he brought down the portraits of retired General Mark Milley and retired Secretary of Defense Mark Esper.
But you know what he's also said? He said, I really can't do anything about the groceries. Well, you didn't say that when you were running for office.
Correct. And keep reminding the people of that. Keep reminding the people that he brings down people's portraits and he brings down people's careers, but not the price of your groceries or your gas or your electric or anything else. You know, that's what they have to do.
Well, the other thing is...
But when they do it, they I'm just saying that they're not going to do themselves any favors if they just, you know, don't everything that he does about immigration is because he's a racist. I'm just telling you that's not going to get you anywhere, because there are a fucking shit ton of people in this country that think there are way too many people who weren't born here living here. And whether you like that or not, I'm just telling you that's how they
You
feel.
shouldn't have to be born here to live here.
I don't disagree, but I'm telling you there is a fuck ton of people who don't agree with that.
Well,
And
then they can
you're
go.
gonna have to
then
work with
They
them, is
can
what
go
I'm saying.
fuck themselves. You know,
Well-
because there is a constitution. There is a spirit that this nation has in being able to get people from other countries to find a place here instead of in some country that's oppressing them.
I agree.
And you know,
But,
it's
you
time
know, I'm
we
just
did
saying
something.
Look
that
at how many plane loads have already left.
Yeah.
It's not working.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep. You know,
But I don't disagree. I'm just saying that they have to watch how they go about it, right? You know, because the first bill that Congress passes is a law that says, you know, if you're caught here in this country illegally committing a crime, we're going to send you out of here, all right? And a lot of Democrats voted against it.
how gung ho is ICE? Because it doesn't seem to be any of them saying, "Hey, this is all wrong. We shouldn't be doing this." They just seem to be
they're
doing
right
it.
behind him.
They've been doing it.
They celebrated today or yesterday. It was yesterday. I think it was today. They celebrated today of 0 getaways.
This is what ICE was developed for, to go after all the illegals. And
Yeah.
then now they've got their day in the sun.
They got carte blanche.
But
right
it's
now.
almost like
Yeah.
they're relishing doing this.
Absolutely. Why
Sure.
They
not?
are.
Sure.
That's their job.
Well, it's
That's
like
what
the
they were hired to
prisons.
do.
Hmm?
And they know
It's
if
like
they
the
happen to
prison
drop a
industrials.
couple of them fuckers into the river on the way over, nothing gonna happen to them. Oops, they fell out.
If anything is profitable, it will grow. So the prisons grow, you know, and we have so many examples of this in our systems. If it's profitable, then, you know, more of it will happen.
Oh, and by the way, it's midnight now, right? Okay, it's almost midnight. At midnight, we now have tariffs on everything coming in from Canada
Price is gonna go up.
and everything coming in from Mexico. 25% tariff. Here's the part I don't get. Isn't China the evil empire that he keeps talking about?
Yep. He keeps threatening
Why
them, but he won't
why
do
is it their tariff is only 10%? I guess because all our iPhones come from there, right? And because what's his name from Apple was there kissing his ass at the inauguration.
Then it probably worked, because that's probably exactly what he was doing.
Yeah, 10% on China. I would think China would be 35%, considering how much he said that they've been, undermining us. So.
Well, maybe he realizes that we would end up really pissed off because we'd be paying so much more for all this stuff that we get from China.
Yeah. But, what groceries going down? I went on to Costco today.
So
and I went to
expensive.
look up eggs. Do you know how much they cost?
$6.
You won't find a price. There aren't any eggs at Costco.
We had to go. We had to go when they opened the other morning to get the eggs at 8:30 or whatever it was.
Yeah, well, there were no eggs at about noon today.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what's he doing about that? I thought he was going to.
Nothing.
Ukraine should be taken care of by now, shouldn't it? According
Day
to him?
one, first day. You gotta make a deal.
Right. That's what I'm saying. There are openings there for Democrats to present a message and to work their way into this stuff, but I don't have a lot of faith in them because they're not very intelligent. I'm just, again, and if someone has reasons, give them to me. But I'm just saying, like I said, the first bill that Congress really worked on hard, was a law that basically mandates the fact that if you're an illegal immigrant and you're caught here for, like theft, burglary, assaulting a police officer, or crimes that have bodily harm like assault and things like that, and you're an illegal, the new law requires local law enforcement to turn you over for federal detention so that you can be deported.
But
and
hasn't that always been the way that if you were here,
it hasn't always been the
if
way.
you were here,
and that's what
no,
I'm saying.
but if you were here illegally and you committed a crime, you were out the door. They were sent. They were, in fact, they say under Biden that he actually exported people, more people than Trump did.
Yeah, they did. They were right. But I mean, regardless of what the statistics were, I'm just saying if you're a Democrat and you're in this position, why do you vote against that? I mean, I'm not against the rule that says that. I mean, I don't really know anybody who even is, other than fucking Democratic lawmakers in Congress. That's the problem. They're disconnected with the reality of the United States of America.
I don't give a crap about foreign people here, except that the reason this country, one of the tenets of this country was, this is a place you come to if you want to have a better life.
Sure.
And so we should be inviting everyone to come who wants to be here. We still got enough room, don't we? How many millions of migrants came over the border? We don't have room for them?
No, I'm not against it.
Yeah.
But I'm saying if you're a Democratic lawmaker and a bill comes to the floor that says if you're here and you're here illegally, okay, you don't have a visa, you didn't come across with your passport, get it stamped and all that, and the police arrest you because you beat someone up on the street, and the law now says that the local law enforcement has to take you and hand you over to ICE immediately, and that law is in front of you, and it comes up for you to vote yay or nay, and you're a Democratic lawmaker, why would you vote nay? What is if someone on the panel has reasons why Democrats should be opposing that bill, I'm all for hearing it. I'm just saying that a lot of them did, and I don't see how that is their path back to power.
Yeah.
Because I haven't met anybody yet that if you put that in front of them says, "Oh, I wouldn't. That's a bad idea. I wouldn't vote for that." The only people in America that I've actually heard say, "I'm not for that," are fucking Democratic lawmakers in Washington, D.C. Which is my point. They're disconnected from the people.
Hey, Bree, turn off your mic, please, if you're going to be doing business with somebody. Yeah.
I mean, that's all I'm saying is that they're just, regardless of how I feel about it or you, those lawmakers are disconnected from the people.
Well, in the minute and a half we have before we go to our theme here, and by the way, there's no Amy tonight. She's not feeling well. Let me just ask each and every one of you, Ray, is there anything we can do right now? Or do we just wait for our turn in about 2 years?
I think, like Josh says, it has to come from the people. And so I don't think social media is really the answer. I think writing your congressman, calling.
I think maybe resistance is another.
Protest, resistance, as long as it doesn't get violent.
I don't mind if it gets violent.
No, that's not gonna work.
It gets used against the whole message gets lost.
It worked for Trump on January 6th. Okay, how did that turn out for us? If you don't believe in violence, this is a country that lives on violence.
We have enough violence.
Well, it didn't work in the Black Lives Matter thing. I mean,
it didn't. It didn't. If there weren't Black Panthers,
what are you resisting?
No, I'm talking about the recent one.
No, but I'm talking about the Black Panthers, for instance, which were considered a violent group. They scared the crap out of white people, so they made changes.
I know, you're right. They did.
So if you don't think that violence doesn't change things in this country, you're wrong. It's the only. It's the only currency people like Trump understand.
I was just saying because I don't like it.
Yeah. Okay. Let me just ask. Let me see here. Mark, any thoughts? Last thoughts?
To quote one of my favorite movies, "Fight like apes."
Right on. How about you, Charlie? Anything?
Just think you gotta keep pointing out that the shoe could be on the other foot when Democrats are in power. You don't want Trump doing anything that's going to give more power to Democrats when they get in power.
Yeah. Okay. Josh, how about you? Anything?
No, I said quite a lot.
Okay. How about you, Alan? Quickly.
Yeah, I agree with Mark.
Okay.
Fight like an ape.
Fight like an ape, exactly. Kevin, any last words here on this?
Nah, go for it.
Okay, how about you, Jeffrey?
I think we gotta get our people who know who our congressmen are, what their name is, and tell them.
And
you gotta show me every day what you do.
Finally, Bree, any last words?
Just wait 4 years.
Just wait.
We'll see if we still have a country left.
Okay, everybody, that's it for tonight. Give a big wave goodbye, and I will give a big wave goodbye at you. There they go, ladies and gentlemen. That's our citizen panel, and we'll have another one next week. There's no Amy next because she is not feeling well tonight. But anyway, I will see you again on Monday. We'll be here for our big Monday show, our pop-up show, and that will be at 4 o'clock, and that will be on Facebook. And then we will be right back here, same time, same station, next Wednesday. And in the meantime, if you see her, as always, tell her I love her, okay? Good night, everybody.